My dear friends, have you noticed something very interesting in life? When you tell people your strengths, most of them will clap. But when you tell them your weaknesses, many of them will gossip. The world is like social media. People don't always like to see your struggles, they like to see your highlights. Now, I am not saying hide who you are. I am saying be wise about where you share the most vulnerable parts of yourself. Because remember, not everyone who smiles at you wants the best for you. There is a simple principle. Don't share your weakness with those who might use it against you. Share it with those who will help you rise above it. Let me tell you a story. Once there was a farmer who had a donkey. One day the donkey fell into a pit. The farmer thought, this donkey is of no use anymore. So instead of pulling it out, he started throwing dirt on it to bury it. But the donkey was very wise. Each time the dirt fell on its back, it shook it off and stepped on it. Slowly, the donkey rose higher and higher until it walked out of the pit. Now imagine if the donkey had cried out its weakness to the wrong people. They would have used it to finish him. But instead, it quietly used wisdom and came out stronger. In life, friends, it's not about never having weaknesses, it's about who you reveal them to. Because the wrong audience can bury you, but the right guide can lift you. Everyone has weaknesses. This is a simple truth of life that we often try to hide, deny, or ignore. We like to present ourselves as strong, confident, and capable in every situation. But deep down, we know that there are areas where we struggle, where we feel insecure, and where we are not as perfect as we want others to believe. Yet, what we often forget is that having weaknesses does not make us less valuable, less worthy, or less human. It simply makes us real. It is part of being alive. No one has it all together, no one is flawless, and no one can walk through life without stumbling at some point. Think of the strongest lion in the jungle. Even the lion, known as the king of beasts, has moments of weakness. Sometimes it limps because of a wound. Sometimes it fails to catch its prey. Sometimes it has to retreat when faced with a stronger opponent. Yet, the lion is still the lion, still the king. Its weakness does not take away its strength. It only proves that even kings are not exempt from struggle. The same applies to us. You may be excellent at your job, but weak in managing your emotions. You may be a brilliant student, but find it hard to speak confidently in public. You may be a loving parent, but struggle with patience at times. These weaknesses do not cancel your strengths. They are simply part of your human experience. Imagine a glass of water. If it has a small crack, the water may slowly drip out. That crack represents a weakness. But if the glass is carefully handled, cared for, and used wisely, it can still hold water and serve its purpose beautifully. Weakness does not mean uselessness. It only means caution and awareness are needed. The same is true for people. A person may carry weaknesses, but with the right awareness and effort, they can still live a meaningful, impactful, and inspiring life. Let me give you an example from everyday life. Think of a student who struggles in mathematics, but is brilliant in art. If the student focuses only on the weakness, constantly comparing themselves to others who are good at math, they may feel like a failure. But if they recognize their talent in art and still make consistent efforts to improve in math, they can build a balanced and confident identity. In fact, many times, it is the very presence of weaknesses that pushes us to discover our true strengths. That student might one day become a world-class designer, artist, or innovator. If they had been perfect in everything, perhaps they would never have found their unique gift. Weaknesses are often the very reason we search deeper into ourselves, and that search leads us to greatness. Even in relationships, weaknesses play an important role. Think of a husband who is not very organized, always forgetting little things, but his wife compliments him by being detail-oriented. Or a friend who is shy and quiet, but has another friend who is outgoing and expressive. Weaknesses give others a chance to complete us, to step in where we fall short, and to make life more balanced. Imagine if everyone was perfect. There would be no room for patience, no need for kindness, and no opportunity for compassion. Weakness creates the space for love, forgiveness, and support. Another example comes from sports. A cricketer may have a weakness against a particular kind of bowling, but that weakness does not erase their overall skill. With practice, guidance, and persistence, they can learn to overcome it, or at least minimize its impact. In fact, many great players have shared how their early weaknesses became the reason they trained harder and achieved mastery. Weakness can be a teacher in disguise. The truth is, everyone has something they are not good at, something they struggle with, something they are trying to improve. The difference between people is not whether they have weaknesses or not, but how they choose to deal with them. Some people let their weaknesses define them. They give up, they feel small, they hide away from challenges. Others acknowledge their weaknesses, accept them, and then take action to grow stronger. Think of Thomas Edison, who failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. If he had allowed his failures to define him as weak, the world might still be in darkness. Or think of Abraham Lincoln, who lost many elections before finally becoming President of the United States. His weaknesses in earlier attempts only prepared him to handle success with greater wisdom. So when you feel that you are not good enough, remember this: weakness is not the opposite of strength. Weakness is the soil in which strength can grow. A tree grows tall and firm because it once started as a fragile seedling. That seedling could have been crushed, ignored, or considered weak. But with care, time, and perseverance, it became mighty. You too are like that seed. Your weaknesses are not the end of your story. They are simply the beginning of your strength. Therefore, never feel ashamed of having weaknesses. They are reminders that you are human. They are opportunities for growth, humility, and connection with others. They are signals pointing you toward areas where you can improve. Instead of hiding them with fear, look at them with honesty and courage. Instead of comparing yourself to others, compare yourself to the person you were yesterday and see how far you have come. Everyone has weaknesses, and that is what makes us all relatable. If you ever feel small because of them, just remember the lion. Even with a limp, it remains the king of the jungle. Even with your struggles, you remain valuable, capable, and worthy of respect. Weakness is not the end. It is simply one part of your journey towards strength. Not all listeners are trustworthy. This is one of the hardest truths to accept in life. But once we understand it, we save ourselves from unnecessary pain. Many of us make the mistake of believing that just because someone smiles at us, talks kindly with us, or shows interest in our life, they truly care about our well-being. But the reality is different. Human beings are complex, and not everyone who listens to you is listening with the intention to support you. Some are listening just out of curiosity. Some are listening so they can use your words as gossip. And sadly, a few are listening with the intention of finding a way to harm or belittle you. Think of a simple example from school. A student fails in a subject and shares his struggle openly with everyone in the class. Now, the ones who truly care may try to help him, but there will also be others who tease him, call him names, or spread stories about his failure. The same weakness, when revealed to the wrong audience, becomes a tool for mockery. The student doesn't realize that not every ear is a safe place for his words. Life works in the same way. Imagine you're working in an office. One day you feel stressed and overwhelmed. You trust a colleague and share your struggle, thinking they will understand, but instead, that colleague uses the information to present you as weak in front of your boss, or spreads the word around that you can't handle pressure. What happens? A moment of vulnerability, instead of bringing comfort, brings damage. Why? Because the listener was not trustworthy. This is why it is so important to develop discernment. Discernment means knowing who to trust and who to avoid. Not all listeners are friends, and not all friends are confidential. A wise person once said, "Don't tell your problems to everyone. Half of them don't care, and the other half are happy you have them." Harsh but true. If we are not careful, our deepest struggles can end up as someone else's entertainment. Let us look at an example from daily life. Imagine you are going through financial difficulty. You share it openly with someone you barely know. Now, a trustworthy person may encourage you, guide you, or even help you. But an untrustworthy person might take advantage, perhaps by offering a fake investment scheme or by spreading the news around in a way that makes you feel embarrassed. The same sharing, the same problem, but two very different outcomes depending on the trustworthiness of the listener. It's not just about others misusing your words, it's also about the energy they give you in return. Some people, when you share your weakness with them, will drain your confidence even more. Instead of uplifting you, they'll make you feel smaller. Imagine telling someone about your fear of public speaking, and instead of supporting you, they say, "Yes, I noticed. You really looked nervous last time." What does that do? It makes you doubt yourself even more. On the other hand, if you shared with someone trustworthy, they might say, "Don't worry, you're better than you think. Let's practice together." See the difference. The listener's intention decides whether your weakness becomes heavier or lighter. In relationships too, this principle applies. Sometimes we share personal issues with people who don't value privacy. They may reveal it to others, intentionally or unintentionally, and what was once a private struggle becomes public knowledge. Trust is the foundation of sharing, and without it, even a small disclosure can become a huge regret. That is why wise people are very selective about who they open their heart to. Even in spiritual teachings, this wisdom is emphasized. Not everyone is ready to hear your struggles. Some people are not mature enough to understand. Others may not have the empathy to handle your pain. and some simply don't care. This doesn't mean you must lock yourself up and never share anything. It means you must carefully choose your audience. Share your weaknesses with those who have proven their integrity, those who have shown they can hold your secrets, and those who genuinely want to help you grow. Let's think of another example. A child may run to his mother crying about a mistake he made. The mother, being trustworthy, consoles him, guides him, and helps him correct it. Now imagine the same child running to a stranger with the same problem. The stranger may not care at all, or worse, may laugh at the child. What is the difference? The mother is trustworthy, the stranger is not. The lesson is clear: share your weaknesses only with those who truly hold your best interest in their hearts. When we forget this truth, we often suffer. People who share too openly with everyone often end up disappointed. They wonder why their struggles became the talk of the town. They wonder why their honesty was used against them. The answer is simple: they placed their trust in the wrong listeners. Trust is precious. It is like giving someone the key to your house. Would you give the key to anyone who asks? Of course not. Then why give the key to your inner struggle so freely? So, not all listeners are trustworthy. Be cautious, not fearful. Be open, but only with the right people. Remember, trust should be earned, not given away cheaply. Before you share your weaknesses, ask yourself, has this person proven they can be trusted with my heart? If the answer is yes, share. If not, keep your silence. Silence is not weakness, sometimes it is wisdom. In the end, your weaknesses are precious. They are a part of your story, and not everyone deserves a front row seat to that story. Choose your listeners wisely, because the wrong ones will laugh at your scars, while the right ones will help you heal them. Discernment is protection. In life, we all have people around us: family, friends, colleagues, acquaintances, and even strangers. But not all of them deserve equal access to our inner world. We may think that being open with everyone is a sign of honesty or humility, but in reality, it is a sign of naivety. Wisdom lies in discerning who should know what and when. Just as we lock our homes at night, not because everyone is a thief, but because not everyone can be trusted, we must also learn to guard our inner lives. Discernment is not about being suspicious of everyone. It is about being wise with your heart. Consider a simple example. You don't hand over your bank account details to everyone who asks, do you? Why? Because money is valuable, and you know that in the wrong hands it can be misused. Now, think about your emotions, your struggles, your weaknesses. Aren't they even more valuable than money? If financial wealth needs protection, how much more should emotional wealth be guarded? Discernment is the lock that protects the treasures of your inner world. Think of a gardener. He doesn't allow every plant to grow in every soil. He chooses carefully which seed should be placed in which environment. If a delicate flower is planted in harsh soil, it will not survive. Similarly, when you share your weakness or struggle, you are planting a seed. If you plant it in the wrong soil, the wrong person, it may wither, get trampled, or be misused. But when planted in the right soil, the ear of a wise mentor, a loving parent, or a loyal friend, it grows into understanding, guidance, and strength. Everyday life is filled with examples of this. Imagine you are feeling discouraged about your career. You share your fear with someone who secretly competes with you. What will they do? They may pretend to comfort you, but deep inside, they feel happy that you are struggling. Some may even use it to their advantage by putting you down in front of others. On the other hand, if you share that same weakness with a trusted mentor, they will listen carefully, encourage you, and show you a way forward. The difference is not in your struggle, it's the same, but in your discernment of the listener. Discernment is protection because it prevents unnecessary wounds. Many people today carry pain not because life was cruel to them, but because they shared their struggles with people who didn't know how to handle them. They expected compassion but received criticism. They expected understanding but got judgment. They expected help but found betrayal. And all of this could have been avoided if discernment had been used. Take the example of social media. How often do we see people pouring out their personal struggles online? Some receive kind words, but many get mocked, trolled, or dismissed. The platform itself is not the problem. The problem is the lack of discernment in choosing where to share. Not every space is sacred. Not every listener is safe. If you expose your vulnerability on a stage where people come for entertainment, don't be surprised if they laugh instead of support you. In relationships too, discernment acts as protection. Suppose a husband and wife have a disagreement. If one of them rushes to share every detail with outsiders, they risk exposing their bond to unnecessary opinions. Outsiders may fuel the fire instead of calming it. But if they discern carefully and share only with a wise counselor or an elder who genuinely cares, they protect their relationship while still seeking help. The same issue, handled with or without discernment, can lead to two completely different outcomes. Another example comes from professional life. A leader in a company may be facing doubts about a new project. If he shares his uncertainty with the entire team without filtering, it may spread fear and reduce confidence. But if he shares the same with a few trusted advisors, he can receive constructive input while protecting the morale of the larger group. Discernment here doesn't mean hiding the truth. It means sharing the truth responsibly with the right people at the right time. We often confuse openness with authenticity, but being authentic doesn't mean exposing everything to everyone. It means being real while also being wise. A doctor is authentic when he tells the patient about the illness, but he is wise when he tells it gently, with the right words and at the right time. In the same way, discernment is about choosing the right moment, the right person, and the right way to share. The absence of discernment can be costly. Think of Samson from the scriptures. He had immense strength, but he revealed the secret of his strength to Delilah, who misused it and led to his downfall. His weakness was not his hair, it was his lack of discernment. On the other hand, look at great leaders who confided in the right advisors, who knew when to speak and when to remain silent. Their discernment protected not just themselves, but their entire people. In daily life, you can practice discernment in small ways. Notice who celebrates your success genuinely and who shows hidden jealousy. Notice who keeps your confidence and who leaks it to others. Notice who uplifts you when you share your struggles and who pushes you further down. Life gives you clues, but you must pay attention. Discernment grows with observation and experience. At its heart, Discernment is not about mistrust but about wisdom. Just as you don't wear summer clothes in winter, you don't open your heart to people who cannot keep it warm. Just as you don't plant a rose in rocky soil, you don't plant your struggles in the hearts of those who cannot nurture them. Discernment is choosing wisely so that your weaknesses do not become weapons in the wrong hands. Remember, protection is not only about walls and locks outside, it is about the careful selection of where you place your trust inside. If you learn to discern, you shield yourself from unnecessary pain, you preserve your dignity, and you create space for genuine growth. Weakness is not dangerous. Lack of discernment is. With discernment, your weaknesses can lead to strength. Without it, they can lead to regret. Silence is strength. Most people think silence is weakness, that if you don't speak up in every situation, it means you are scared, timid, or incapable. But in reality, silence is one of the most powerful responses a person can cultivate. It is not the silence of fear, but the silence of wisdom. It is the silence that protects your dignity, that saves your energy, and that prevents unnecessary conflicts. True strength is not always in speaking. Sometimes it is in holding back when you could speak. Think about a heated argument. Two people are shouting at each other, both raising their voices, trying to prove their point. Now, imagine one of them suddenly becomes silent, not out of defeat, but out of choice. That silence has the power to stop the fire. Words can fuel anger, but silence can extinguish it. Many relationships are destroyed because people don't know when to stop talking. But the ones who understand the art of silence preserve peace. Isn't it true that the more we argue, the worse things get? But when one person chooses silence, the storm loses its energy. That is strength. Consider nature. Have you ever noticed how the deepest rivers make the least noise? Shallow waters make a lot of sound, but the deeper the river, the quieter it flows. Silence is the sign of depth. The strongest people are not the loudest in the room. They are often the quietest. They don't need to shout about their worth because their presence speaks louder than words. Similarly, in our lives, silence is not emptiness but fullness. It means we are secure enough not to prove ourselves constantly. Take an example from daily life. Suppose someone insults you in front of others. The immediate instinct is to reply, to defend, or to counterattack. But imagine if you choose silence instead. People may think you are weak, but in truth, you have displayed immense strength. Why? Because you have not allowed the other person to control your emotions. Silence in such moments says, "Your words are not worth my energy," and often the silence hurts more than any reply could. The one who insults expects a reaction. When they don't get it, they are left powerless. Another example can be found in the workplace. Imagine your colleague tries to provoke you by criticizing your efforts in front of others. If you react in anger, the situation escalates and perhaps damages your image. But if you remain silent, listen calmly, and later address it privately, you show maturity. Silence gives you time to process, to think, and to respond with clarity instead of reacting in haste. That pause is power. Many great leaders are known not for what they spoke immediately, but for how long they waited before giving a thoughtful response. Silence also protects our secrets. Not everything in life needs to be announced. Some people weaken themselves by constantly broadcasting their struggles, plans or dreams. But silence guards what is precious until the right time. A farmer doesn't shout every day about the seed he has planted. He waits silently, watering and nurturing it until the time comes for harvest. In the same way, silence about your goals allows you to work on them in peace, without interference, jealousy, or sabotage. When the time is right, your results will speak louder than your words ever could. Think of inventors, writers, and artists. They spend hours in silence, working, creating, and refining. Their strength lies not in constant talk, but in quiet focus. The world eventually celebrates their creation, but the power behind it was silence. In your own life, the most productive moments often come when you are silent, away from noise, concentrating deeply. Silence becomes the cradle of creativity, the birthplace of solutions, and the ground where inner strength grows. Even in spirituality, silence has always been valued. Monks, sages, and saints often practice periods of silence because they understand that when the tongue is still, the mind becomes clearer and the heart becomes calmer. Silence connects us to ourselves and to the divine. In silence, we hear the whispers of our conscience, the guidance of wisdom, and the strength of inner peace. Another daily example can be seen in parenting. A child throws a tantrum, screaming loudly for attention. If the parent reacts with equal shouting, the chaos doubles. But if the parent calmly remains silent and composed, the child eventually calms down too. Silence here becomes a strategy, not of surrender but of guidance. It teaches the child that noise does not always get rewarded. Many people today live in fear of silence. They think if they don't keep talking, they will be ignored or forgotten. So they fill every space with words, often meaningless. But true strength is being comfortable in silence. It means you don't fear being overlooked because you trust that your presence, your work, and your character will speak for you. Silence is not about absence, it is about confidence. Remember also that silence saves relationships. Many times, hurtful things are said in anger that people later regret. But once words are spoken, they cannot be taken back. A single moment of silence in anger can save years of regret. The wise learn to pause, to hold their tongue, to let the heat pass before speaking. That silence is not weakness, it is wisdom in action. Silence can also be a shield. In life, people will provoke you, criticize you, and sometimes even lie about you. If you run after every false word to defend yourself, you will exhaust your energy, but silence shields you. It says, the truth will reveal itself in time. I don't need to prove myself. Those who are secure in their worth don't waste energy answering every critic. They stay silent, focused on their path, and let results do the talking. So silence is strength in every sphere, at home, at work, in relationships, in dreams, and in spiritual growth. It protects you, empowers you, and elevates you. Do not fear silence, embrace it. Use it wisely, and it will become your greatest ally. Because sometimes, silence is not the absence of words, but the presence of wisdom.